The morning sun cast golden ripples across the harbor as Elena Martinez checked her fishing nets one final time. Her weathered hands moved with practiced precision, the same way they had every morning for the past 30 years. The small fishing boat that had belonged to her late husband Miguel wasn't much to look at, but it was everything to her. It represented memories, survival, and the promise she'd made to continue his legacy of feeding their coastal community. Elena had weathered many storms in her 62 years. She'd raised 3 children alone after Miguel's heart attack, worked double shifts at the cannery while maintaining the boat, and never once asked for charity. Her calloused hands and sun-weathered face told the story of a woman who knew the meaning of hard work and dignity. That Tuesday started like any other, until she spotted the naval patrol boat approaching her usual fishing spot. Elena had been coming to these waters since she was a teenager, long before any military exercises or restricted zones had been established. The coordinates were burned into her memory like a sacred map passed down through generations of fishermen. Lieutenant Commander Bradley Harrison stood at the helm of the patrol vessel, his pressed uniform gleaming in the morning light. Beside him, Lieutenant James Morrison checked his clipboard with bureaucratic precision. Both men were career officers, ambitious and by the book, seeing the world in terms of regulations and advancement opportunities. "Ma'am, you're in restricted waters," Harrison announced through the loudspeaker, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to immediate compliance. "You need to move your vessel immediately." Elena cupped her hand to her ear, squinting against the sun. "These aren't restricted waters, young man." "I've been fishing here since before you were born," Morrison whispered something to Harrison, who nodded grimly. They'd been looking for ways to demonstrate their thoroughness to headquarters, and this elderly woman's defiance seemed like the perfect opportunity to show their commitment to naval security. "Ma'am, I'm ordering you to leave immediately or we'll be forced to take action." Harrison's voice grew colder. When Elena continued preparing her nets, seemingly ignoring the warning, his patience snapped. "Fire a warning shot across her bow." The crack of the naval cannon echoed across the water like thunder. Elena's boat rocked violently in the wake and she stumbled, catching herself on the mast. Her heart raced, not from fear, but from a familiar feeling she'd hoped never to experience again. "You have no right," she called back, her voice steady despite the trembling in her legs. "These are public fishing grounds. Final warning, ma'am." "Move your vessel or we'll sink it as a navigation hazard," Harrison replied, his hand already reaching for the radio to call in additional support. Elena looked at the threatening officers, then at her husband's boat, then at the waters that had sustained her family for decades. She reached into her pocket and pulled out an old, battered cell phone. With shaking fingers, she dialed a number she'd memorized but never thought she'd need to use. "Admiral Patricia Reyes speaking," came the crisp voice on the other end. "Patricia, it's Elena Martinez, Miguel's wife. I need your help." The silence stretched for a long moment before the Admiral's voice softened completely. "Elena, my God, how are you? I haven't heard from you since Miguel's funeral, 35 years earlier." A young midshipman, Patricia Reyes, had been caught in a violent storm during a training exercise. Her small vessel had capsized miles from shore, and she'd been drifting for hours when Miguel Martinez found her. He and Elena had pulled the half-drowned young officer aboard, nursed her back to health, and refused any reward. Patricia had promised that if they ever needed anything at all, they only had to call Dot. As Elena explained her situation, she could hear the Admiral's breathing change. "Elena, put me on speakerphone and hold the phone toward those officers. This is Admiral Patricia Reyes, commander of the 5th Fleet." The voice boomed across the water with unmistakable authority. "To the commanding officer of that vessel, identify yourself immediately." Harrison's face went white as he stammered his name and rank. In the background, Morrison looked like he might be sick. "Lieutenant Commander Harrison, you are hereby ordered to stand down immediately and report to my office within 2 hours. Those are not restricted waters, and Mrs. Martinez has every right to fish there. Furthermore, your threatening of a civilian vessel constitutes a serious breach of naval conduct." The Admiral's voice carried across the harbor like divine judgment. Mrs. Martinez is under my personal protection. Any further harassment of her or interference with her livelihood will result in court-martial proceedings. Am I making myself clear? Yes, Admiral. Crystal clear, Admiral. Harrison managed to choke out Dot as the patrol boat retreated with its tail between its legs. Elena looked at the phone in her hand and smiled through tears she didn't realize had been forming. Sometimes the seeds of kindness planted decades ago bloom. In the most unexpected ways, she cast her nets into the familiar waters, knowing that some debts of gratitude span lifetimes, and that respect is earned not through rank or authority, but through the simple act of treating others with dignity and compassion.